Welcome to Daily Armor. Today I'm going to be in Isaiah chapter 59. I want to probably look at this for a few days, maybe, or at least one more day. I want to spend a little bit more time studying it out a little bit more. Um, my devotion for today, what the Lord is helping me with today, is having hope. Having hope. We all go through times of discouragement, seasons of discouragement, moments of discouragement, whether it's, a day or whether it's a season long, or, months, maybe a year that is difficult and discouraging. As I look back and see what the Lord has taken, what I have perceived as circumstances that is going to make my situation worse, not better, I have realized that leaning not unto thine own understanding has just it's come to life in my life. Thinking about everything that was going on before we moved to Florida, it was not a good time, according to me. It was not the greatest amount of circumstances, according to me. It was not going to make things better. It was going to make it worse, according to me. It was just I just could not believe the Lord had us leaving in the midst of all that was going on in our lives. And there was wonderful things happening at the same time in our life. At the same time, our church was overflowing. Like, we just had so many people that were just nothing that we had done different, but just flooding with people. We were packing in there. And that was exciting on that end. And there was a lot of other stuff going on at the same time. And yet, in the middle of all those circumstances, made no sense to me why the Lord would move us. It made no sense to me why that the Lord would choose somebody that was already pastoring a church to leave that church to go pastor another church. That made no sense to me whatsoever. But again, leaning not unto thine own understanding was coming to life, and I didn't even realize it. And so as I think about my circumstances today, this new season that I am in, and I'm thinking, Lord, the stuff that's coming at me, it's not going to make it better. It's going to make it worse. And then I'm like, no, wait a minute. Remember, that's the way I thought before, and that's not what had happened. It was actually, for me, moving to Florida made everything worse. Did it? No, it actually made everything better. And so as I look at my circumstances today, and I realize that there's more going on than what I can understand and what I can perceive and what I can handle, I know that there's nothing that takes God by surprise. It may take me by surprise. It may take you by surprise. It may be shocking. It may be something you would not have anticipated. It was definitely things that we did not want, but nothing that he was not aware of. Therefore, he's got it all under control. And as we look at Isaiah 59 verse 1, I'm only going to get kind of started with this devotion today because, again, I've just been pondering on it all morning, and I want to ponder on it some more. A couple of places that we may not have time to get to today that I want to kind of look at some more. And there's so much. There's a lot going on here in Isaiah 59, and it looks really, really discouraging and really depressing. But you got to keep going. We have to keep going. There's this just it's part of the scenario. It's part of the circumstances. It's not the whole picture. Now, the enemy wants us to focus on this circumstance or that situation or this. He wants us to focus on just those things because he wants us to get discouraged as if we have no hope. But we have hope. My hope is in Jesus. Your hope is in Jesus. The world, we all need Jesus. That's what is so amazing, is that everybody's circumstances, I don't care what kind of circumstances they are, they all need Jesus. Let's look at Isaiah 59 verse number 1, and we'll just see how far we go. I'm very limited on time this morning, and so I can't get into all of it that I want to get into, but you know what? We'll hopefully, Lord willing, we'll come back to it tomorrow and maybe even a third day. So maybe I even get to spend all week thinking about all my hope is in Jesus. Isaiah 59 says, verse number 1 says, Behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened, that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy, that it cannot hear. The Lord's saying, he's fixing to lay out a bunch of stuff here that's going to be really hard and really difficult, because there is a separation that's taking place that's being pictured here, a separation from the Lord. But even through the separation from the Lord in those circumstances that separated us from the Lord's saying, but my hand's not short, and my ear, it's not having any trouble. I can still hear. I can still do. The Lord's saying, these circumstances look like there's no hope. But the Lord's saying, I anticipated this in his foreknowledge. He knows everything. He knows everything. Nothing catches him by surprise. And he's had a plan from the beginning. It makes me go all the way back to Adam and Eve and that separation in the garden. They were separated because of sin. But yet God still had a plan. It did not catch him by surprise. It did not shorten his hand. It did not stifle his ear where he couldn't hear. It wasn't so separated that he couldn't hear. He still knows. And I'm not even going to get into all of the, for the sake of time, all of the verses talking about the separation from God. It says, but your iniquities have separated between you and your God. He's saying our sin can separate us. Our sin did separate us. Sin did separate us in the beginning, but yet God still had a plan. He said he was going to take the seed from the woman, and he was going to bruise the head of the enemy. It was going to be a fatal blow. That enemy was, yes, going to bruise the heel of the seed of the woman. It was going to cause some damage. It was going to hurt. But the fatal blow would be to the head of the enemy. And we have to realize the enemy is defeated already, but the enemy still wants to discourage us. The enemy still wants us to look at just our circumstances. The enemy wants us to think that there is no hope. Why? Because this is what can happen when you feel like there is no hope. Jeremiah 18:12 says, let me flip over to it and find it real quick. This is what happens when we feel like there is no hope. Let's just jump over to Jeremiah 18 and verse number 12. If I had my glasses on, I would be able to find it a little quicker. 18 verse 12 says, and they said, there is no hope, but we will walk after our own devices. Okay, there's no hope. There's nothing I can do. I'm on my own. That's what Jeremiah said. And they said there is no hope. The enemy got them so discouraged that they thought there's no hope. There's no hope for us. There's no hope for me. There's no hope for this circumstance. There's no hope for my loved ones. There's no hope for my family. There's no hope for my health. There's no hope for my life. There's no hope for my joy. They thought there was no hope. And what happens when we, this is why the enemy wants to discourage us. This is why the enemy wants to discourage me. And he was doing a pretty good job of it yesterday. It was really some aggravating circumstances, and it was really discouraging. And it's amazing how the Lord can help us even in the midst of our discouragement. But we have to realize and see that there is hope. See, the enemy was causing them to feel like that they said there is no hope, but we will walk after our own devices. And we will everyone do the imagination of his evil heart. In other words, it was going to take us away from the Lord, because we're like, well, there ain't no hope. Our church ain't going to never get it right. This ain't never going to happen. This is never going to take place. This is never going to get better. There's no hope. So we're just going to figure out, we're just going to do our own thing. We're just going to figure it out. We're just out here on our own. My health can't get no better. This is going to overtake me. This is, I'm just getting older and weaker, and it's never going to get better. When we think there is no hope, which the enemy so wants to convince us of, The enemy wants to get in our head. The enemy tries to get in our head. We got to get the enemy out of our head. We got to realize there is hope. We got to go back to Isaiah 59 verse number 1 and think about, no matter what the circumstances were afterwards, the separation from the Lord is still saying that his hand is not shortened, that it cannot save. In other words, he can still reach us. I may not can get to him. Sin separated me and I could not get to the Lord. I tried, and I could not get to the Lord. And sin separated me from God and I could not get to him. But the Lord's saying, but my hand's not too short that I can't reach you. And I was trying to, Lord, if, but it wasn't about the ifs. It was, Lord, I need you. Lord, I can't get to you. Lord, I need Jesus. The blood of Jesus is the only way I can go to heaven. And when I called out to him that Monday night, his ear heard and his hand saved me. And no matter what these circumstances, and it's dark. Israel was walking in darkness. And it's from verse number 2 to verse number 15, it's looking dark and gloomy, and it's like it's never going to get better. But then look here. I want to read verse 15 and then I want to get into verse 16 and 17 and 18. Let's read 15 through 18. It says, yea, truth faileth, and he that departeth from evil maketh himself a prey. And the Lord saw it. This is what I want us to see. And the Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no judgment. The Lord saw all these circumstances, this from verse 2 all the way through. He was seeing all this going on, and it displeased him that there was no judgment. But look what happens in verse 16. And he saw that there was no man, and wondered that there was no intercessor. We needed an intercessor. He's like, okay, somebody needs to be an intercessor. He already had a plan. Therefore his arm remember, his hand's not shortened. So his arm brought salvation. He sent Jesus. He sent us Jesus. His arm brought salvation unto him, and his righteousness, it sustained him. My righteousness? No. His righteousness. He sent the intercessor. He sent the one whose righteousness, he sent the righteousness of Christ. He sent the righteousness, for he put on righteousness as a breastplate. Jesus did that as a breastplate, and a helmet of salvation upon his head, and he put on the garments of vengeance for clothing, and was clad with zeal as a cloak. What is this talking about? This is talking about God's armor. God's armor. This is so exciting. It goes from doom and gloom, and there is no hope, and there's this separation. And the Lord reminds us to begin with, he's like, my hand's not too short. My ear's not muffled. My ears are not clogged up. I can hear. My hand can still reach. And it says he took his arm. His arm brought salvation. In other words, that hand wasn't shortened. His arm, that hand was extended with that arm. His arm brought salvation. Verse number 18, according to their deeds, accordingly he will repay. Fury to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies, and to the islands he will repay recompense. So there's a lot going on right there, and I want to study that out some more. But when I'm seeing that, according to their deeds, according he will repay. I have sin that needed payment, and Jesus, he repaid that. He paid that price, that penalty. I couldn't have paid it. I tried. I really, really tried hard. And I really tried hard to figure out a lot of things, and I really try hard to do what the Lord wants me to do. I really try hard to get things right. I really try hard to work for the Lord. I really try hard not to get discouraged. I really try hard not to lose no hope. And even in those moments or that season where it seems like I've just lost hope, and then he reminds me. I'm going to share one more last thing, and then I'm going to go, and Lord willing, we'll be talking about hope again tomorrow. But I want to go back to, behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened that it cannot save, neither is his ear heavy that it cannot hear. He's able to save. He's able to hear. We got to cry. We got to call unto him. Call unto him, and I will show you great and mighty things which thou knowest not. That's what's happened to me my whole walk with him, is that I'm trying, and then when I lose hope, And then when I call out to him and Lord, I'm saying, Lord, I'm tired of trying. And he's like, I've been waiting for you to quit trying and just trust. He says, like, trust in the Lord with all thine heart. That's why he gave me Proverbs chapter 3. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. And the circumstances, they may be rough and difficult, and it may look, the enemy wants you to think that you have no hope. But we do have hope. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13. If I've got a moment, I know like any moment I'm going to be out of time. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse number 13. If I can find it real quick here. Chapter 5, chapter 4, verse 13. But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep. I will say this applies not just to those who have gone on before, but I would say that he would have us not be ignorant of our circumstances that we are presently in. Concerning them which are asleep, that ye sorrow not, even as others which have no hope. He says, don't act like there is no hope. Don't treat your circumstances like there is no hope. Even those that have went on before us, even those that died, but they died in the Lord. They didn't die without hope. They're not, my hope is that I'm going to see my loved ones that have gone on before me. I'm going to see those that I love and I cherish again. And I'm not going to go through life as if there's no hope. Now I may miss them terribly. I miss my mama so terribly. I miss my Papa Jack. I miss my daddy terribly. And I have those moments where it just hurts. It just, you just yearn for them. But the Lord's saying, but don't look at it through a lens as if you have no hope, because you have hope. You're going to see them again. And it feels like a long time, but it's really but a vapor. It's really going to be very quick. We have hope, and all our hope is in Jesus. Lord willing, we'll be talking about hope again tomorrow. See you again soon. Thank you for joining me.